Hey everyone, welcome to Fellowship of the Frugal. My name is Daniel. In today's video I'm going to change it up a little bit. I know I normally talk to you about straight up financial advice, but today I'm going to help you with your job interview skills. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to help you get that better paying job, whether you're getting started in the marketplace or you're trying to make a career change or just get a promotion of some kind. These skills will help you get that higher paying job, and then you can look at my other videos to see how to use your money wisely. So I hope you enjoy what you hear. If you like it, as always, I would love it if you take the time to subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, and I will see you soon. Thank you. Okay, to start with, I thought I would answer the question, why am I qualified to teach this subject? And the reason I feel like what I have to offer on this subject is helpful is because in my career, I have made several different career changes in all kinds of different industries, from sales to funeral home to financial advisory to insurance. I mean, you name it. I've done just about everything, it seems. I know there's a lot I haven't done, but it still seems like I have. So I've made a lot of career changes, and what tends to happen is I get offered the job whenever I get a face-to-face interview. So if I've had, just say, 20 interviews in my career where I sought after a job, got a face-to-face interview, then in all of those cases, except for 2, I have been offered the job. And so that's a very high success rate in my opinion. And the only 2 that I have not gotten offered the job, in one instance I finished runner-up, so I was second. And in the other one, the company decided to eliminate the position altogether, so nobody was hired. So that's even a higher success rate. And so all this to say, I'm taking these very skills that I'm sharing with you today, I have applied them in these interviews over the years, and they work. So I hope what I have to share is helpful to you in your next interview. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by making an assumption. Now, if you're interviewing for a job, you're probably going to be in one of 3 sectors. One is a for-profit business, where they make a service, they make a product, they sell it, and they try to make a profit. The other one is going to be a not-for-profit. This would be like a charity of some kind. And the third sector would be government. So in the tips that I have to share in this interview, I'm mostly going to be focusing on the for-profit entities. If you are interviewing for a not-for-profit or for a government, they're really trying to fill a role of some kind, and they want to help fill that with the best possible person to make it efficient, the least costly option. But with a for-profit entity, they look at things a little differently, so that's my assumption as I proceed with this. Now, to start with, I want to keep in mind what I consider the main idea for the interviewer and the interviewee. What's the main thing that needs to stay on top of mind? So for the interviewer, as a person interviewing to fill a position in a for-profit entity, what the company is thinking is, can this person make more money for the company than what it pays for that person to be here? Now, the interviewer, him or herself, may not feel that way. They're trying to fill a position with a qualified candidate, but as far as the company is concerned, the reason that the job is open to begin with is because the company expects to make more off of your efforts than you take home. Otherwise, it can't be a for-profit. It's going to go out of business because they have to make more money on your position than what you bring home yourself. So always have to keep that in mind, that the interviewer is thinking, can I make money on this person by filling the role with them? So from the interviewee's perspective, you have to remember the main idea is this is a two-way interview. This isn't just the company interviewing you as the person, but you're also interviewing the company as well. This is key. This is a major attitude that I take with me to interviews, and I want you to do the same. It'll be very helpful to you in your confidence level and also getting a better pick for the job that you end up going with should you make a change. So remember, this is a two-way interview. It's not just one way. So that's the main ideas that I wanted to cover. Now let's look at the individual tips. So let's get the obvious ones out of the way first. So things like be on time. I mean, you want to be at least 15 minutes early to whatever the start time of the interview is. You want to dress the part. So whatever is the appropriate attire for the job, you want to look the part. You want to give a firm handshake. You want to make eye contact with the person who is interviewing you. You want to be kind. You want to smile. And the gatekeeper, or the person that you speak to first, who may not be the person interviewing you, treat that person with the utmost respect and courtesy, because they may have a recommendation for the employer on who gets hired as well. So those are the obvious ones I want to get out of the way first. Now let's look at the individual tips that I have to offer. First is bring your own questions. This is key. I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed over the years who don't have a thing to ask me about my job, about the company, about their role, nothing. It's almost like they come in thinking, please offer me the job, I'm desperate. At least that's how I take it as an interviewer. And I didn't say this earlier, but I've been on both sides of the table as far as qualification. I have been the interviewee and I've been the interviewer. For years I've interviewed candidates, and so these things are things that I look for in potential candidate. Now, this may not apply to every person who's interviewing, but I think a lot of people do, and the odds are in your favor if you apply these things that I'm sharing with you. But the first, of course, as I said, is bring your own questions. In some interviews that I've sat in, the interviewer starts with, before I get started, do you have any questions for me? And you better believe I'm usually in a suit. I'll open up my jacket and I'll pull out my piece of paper. I'll fold it out and I'll say, yes, I do have some questions. And I'll start going down the line. And I always have more based on the conversation that's going to happen in the next few minutes. I always have some more questions. That makes you look informed. It makes you look sharp. As a bonus, if you do some research on the company ahead of time, that's even better. So look up the company's website, go through the About section, learn about the company's history, learn all kinds of things you can about the company so that in the interview you can ask specific questions about what you found. For example, hey, I saw that this company started in 1883. Can you tell me about the history or some changes? Just some. If you reference something that you have clearly looked at on the website, that's impressive to an interviewer. So bring your own questions. Do not come empty-handed with no questions whatsoever. Don't go to an interview if you're not going to have any questions with you, period. That's a major point in today's video. Bring your own questions. The second tip I want to give you is to be honest about your weaknesses. So if you're asked a question that's kind of going to put you on the spot, be honest about it. Don't act like you don't have any weaknesses. That's going to be more of a turnoff than whatever you say as far as your answer to the question. I've sat in an interview before where I was one of the people in a panel interviewing a candidate, and the question was, tell me about a prior work conflict that you've had and how you handled it. And the candidate, who was looking pretty good up until that point, said, oh, I've never had a conflict with another associate. Now, to me, that's dishonest, and she was immediately written off in my book. I didn't want to hire her after that point, regardless of whatever else she said, because that's not an honest answer. Everybody has conflicts at work. I don't care how nice you are, there's some sort of conflict. Be honest about it. Be honest about your weaknesses. You can talk about your strengths too, which you certainly should be expected to do in your interview, but if you're asked specifically about your weaknesses, don't shy from that question. Be honest about it. Honesty goes a long way in the interview process, and the interviewer is going to remember that as they're trying to sort through which is the strongest candidate. The third tip I want to offer you is one question can change the entire interview. That can go either way, for good or for bad. I'll never forget this one candidate. Also, I was in a panel interview. This candidate I was not impressed with at all. I had no intention of hiring him. But somebody else asked the question. She held up a pen and said, sell me on this pen. And I'm telling you, his answer to that was amazing to me. I still remember how well he answered that question, and I was ready to hire him on the spot just because of that one question and how well he handled it. Now, on the flip side, you can also completely turn an interview. Actually, I'll use my last example of the lady who said that she had never had a work conflict. She was written off in my book. I didn't want anything to do with the interview after that. I was ready to end it. So one question, whether it's going well, then one question can kill it, or if you feel like you haven't really done well in the interview, you can nail it on one question and completely turn it around. It's hard to know exactly what all questions you're going to be asked, because some of them can be off the wall. I was once asked what type of road sign I would be and why. Now, I had no way to prepare for that question, but honestly, I feel good about the answer that I gave, and your creativity and how you answer an off-the-wall question can win somebody over to your side to want to offer you the job. So you never know, so keep that in mind. And I mentioned panel interviews, so my next tip is if you are in a panel interview and you're talking to several people in a group, be sure to address the whole group. If person A asks you a question, don't just answer to person A the whole time. Answer person A, but then as you're talking, address the rest of the crowd as well. Make eye contact with all of them. You don't want to leave anybody out, because if there is a panel in there, they all have a say in who gets hired. So you want them to all feel a part of the conversation and not leave anybody out. Even if they ask you a question and then just kind of check out, make sure to address everybody. The fifth tip that I want to give is to answer questions like you're already a part of the team. This goes a long way in an interview. So for example, if the interviewer offers to give you a tour of the building that you're in, as you're walking around the building, you can ask things like, hey, what would my role be right here? Or how would this person work with me in this role? Especially if you're being introduced to people throughout the tour as well. But try to phrase your responses in ways such as that, where you're saying, how would I be doing this? What would it mean for me? How would this apply with the job that I'm doing? So try to make it sound like you're already a part of the team and assume that you are. And your answers assume that they have no choice but to hire you because you're going to be so good at the job. And the sixth and the last tip that I'm going to have for this video is this. It is okay to pause after you are asked a question. So many times, now I know people get nervous, but I'll ask a question and I'll probably even finish the question and they just shoot off an answer, rapid fire pace, and I just kind of sit back and go, okay, and just kind of be overwhelmed with the information. It's kind of like a fire hydrant coming at you. But it actually goes a very long way. It doesn't feel natural, but if you were asked a question, to pause, say that was a good question, and then to give your answer. That shows that you're actually thinking about your response, and you're not just trying to spout out some kind of memorized answer in a interview preparation that you were doing, guessing that what the questions were going to be. If you take time to pause, take a breath, say that was a great question, and then answer it, or if you don't have an immediate answer, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, that's a great question, I haven't thought about that. Can I have a minute? Something like that will go a long way. You want to show that you are being thoughtful in giving your responses. Otherwise, if you answer too quickly, too rapid fire, it's just going to sound like you rehearsed answers, you memorized answers, and that comes across as not being authentic. So as somebody who has interviewed many people, I love to have somebody tell me after a question, that's a good question, let me think about that. And to maybe take a moment or two to give a response. Again, this isn't natural, and a few seconds will feel like minutes or even hours, but do this. Practice in front of a mirror, practice on video of how long it actually is when you take a moment just to go, that's a good question. It doesn't take nearly as long as you may think. So with all this stuff being said, these are a few of the tips that I use in every interview. Now this isn't everything, but these are some tips that you probably don't normally hear in videos or other books that give you interview tips. A lot of the ones will be the ones that I hit rapid fire in the beginning about the quick points. Yes, you want to do those things, but these 6 tips, take them with you in your next interview, and there's a great chance that you will not only do much better than you think, but hopefully you'll even be offered the job and can then have some more money to look at the other videos that I have to see what to do with it. All that being said, hope you enjoy, hope to see you again on my other videos, and I'll see you again soon.